Chicago, the Windy City, is known for progress, mobility, beautiful monuments, speakeasies, dance halls, movie houses, eateries. Windy City, Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bears, Super Bowl Shuffle, and violence, gangs, segregation, redlining, soul and blues. On any given day, whether the wintry months or the summer months, you could find women dressed to the nines and men's wearing their best Sunday suits. Easter Sunday, churches, gatherings, backyard barbecues. That spells Chicago. Make no mistake, there were hidden messages in both soul and blues music. Racial disparities, redlining, segregation. After visiting Chicago, the great Martin Luther King said, Chicago is one of the most segregated cities.
Sometimes plans never really pan out. Bro told me keep going, never stand down.
These motherfuckers got that sour face on, they been drinking that muddy water. Yeah, they probably neutral, numb, blind, deaf, dumb, taste nothing, grand delusions of grinding, heat funds to fake cuffing hands, up for bands, trust and bluff with nothing planned, smell something under souls, rancid as it guts a hand, such a sham, sans eat, no empathize, no sending friends to me, pretend this ending fried.
The projects was a project. And I want to kind of go back to your brother because I know that you lost your brother, and just to, kind of focus on that to bring him a little memory of him. What do you remember about your brother and what happened?
My brother was the oldest, so when my mom worked, my brother took care of me and my sister. He was the one that was always there, keeping us out of trouble, just trying to keep the family dynamic. It was in December of 1983, and we had this little spot, this little place we used to hang out in, and we called it the Bucket of Blood. It was right on 49th and Hagen. It was a little lounge area. And the reason we called it the Bucket of Blood is because so many people got killed in it.
This map shows the Black Belt of the United States. Its name comes from the fertile soil associated with the region. And for most of America's history, more than 90% of the country's largest minority group lived here. Starting in the early 20th century, nearly half of the African American population left this region to resettle in emerging northern and midwestern cities. It was one of the largest internal migrations in U.S. history, and now data indicates that a new movement is taking shape. To understand why, let's go back to 1865. The Emancipation Proclamation ended slavery and started a new era for colored people in the states. Shortly after, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments enfranchised people of color at large. For the first time, the majority of Black Americans controlled their own destinies. In the years immediately following emancipation, most freed slaves chose to stay in their communities. After all, the only America they had known was the South. It was common for their descendants to work as sharecroppers on plantations. Sometimes their only payment was permission to live on the property. But that wasn't the worst aspect of the South for Blacks.
The Jim Crow caste system determined where you could eat, what platform you stood on when you were catching a train. This was a rigid caste system in which any breach of the caste system could literally mean your life.
That's author and journalist Isabel Wilkerson. She spent 15 years compiling the stories of Black exodus to cities in the North, Midwest, and West. The movement would come to be known as the Great Migration.
The Great Migration was really seeking a political asylum within the borders of our own country. Many of them were fleeing for their lives. They were fleeing a caste system, a rigid caste system known as Jim Crow, in which everything that you could and could not do was based on what you looked like.
In 1915, African Americans began to leave the Black Belt for these new industrial centers. By 1929, 1.5 million African Americans had resettled in new northern metro areas. At the time, America's participation in World War I drove demand for manufacturing labor, but strict immigration laws left northern factories with a shortage of workers. Factories in the North started recruiting low-skilled workers from the South. The workers faced discrimination in their new homes, which culminated in the Red Summer of 1919. Migrant blacks, whites, and European immigrants were all competing for limited housing and resources, which exacerbated relationships in city centers. The most prominent of these settlements for migrating blacks was New York City, and the art, music, and theater that emerged from this community became known as the Harlem Renaissance. These artistic achievements redefined the cultural image of blacks in America. But the stock market crash of 1929 and ensuing Great Depression slowed the influx from the South and effectively ended the first migration. A second wave began in the 40s when World War II kickstarted manufacturing again, while agricultural employment in the South plummeted. Once again, people living in the rural South began to migrate to cities. Manufacturing hubs in the West were far more prominent in this second movement, but only a fraction of skilled labor positions went to African Americans. That kind of discrimination was a common experience for participants in the Great Migration. Throughout history, the segregated neighborhoods that Southern blacks flocked to often became the ground centers of massive, racially motivated rioting. In most cases, the protesting began in response to perceived unfair treatment of the black community. This is a trend that continues today, as seen in modern violent protests in Baltimore, Ferguson, and Milwaukee. By the end of the second migration, an estimated 5 to 8 million blacks had resettled outside of the South. Moving ahead to the 19th.
It's Friday. I've been working all week long, working like a Hebrew slave. I can't wait to get to work. Thank God it's Friday. I grab a coat and catch the bus. I got to be on time. And when I walk through the door, they got to give me mine. On this Friday, time to get paid. It's Friday, where's my money? It's Friday, time to get paid. It's Friday, where's my money? I got to stop and play my lottery. I got to stop and get my drink. Get me an auto rib and get my clothes out the cleaners. Put a couple of dollars in my front pocket before I leave the job. Put the rest of the money in my shoe just in case I get robbed. On this Friday, time to get paid. It's Friday, where's my money? It's Friday, time to get paid. It's Friday.
Hi, I'm Queen of Smothers. Now, we can say a lot about Chicago, but one thing that I can remember is that Chicago was known as Chi-Town. Chi-Town, not Chirac. I mean, sure, there was violence and things of that nature, always, redlining and different things that was, not so great. But there was some good times in Chicago, and we know it as Chi-Town. Now, back in the day, I grew up in the 70s on 46 and Calumet on the south side of Chicago. We had a great time. We would go around to the Met Theater on 47th and Calumet and King Drive, and we would watch movies like the one you're about to see. Fred Williamson, Jim Brown, Read the Hard Way. Bruce Lee movies, all kind of fun movies, you know, and those movies shaped our lives. The soundtracks of music shaped our lives. And so what you're going to see is through the eyes of Queen F. Smothers what the things that made up Chicago and made it Chi-Town. From 7, you know, the 50-yard line, the Taste, the Copper Box, to the restaurants, Ringo's Barbecue on 46th and Calumet, Mississippi Rigs, all the wonderful restaurants, Ari'ze's Barbecue. Wow, I mean, we had some good foodies back then. Who can forget Queen of the Sea on 46th and Prairie, Indiana? Yeah, Rosenwall, the Rosenwall, where doctors and lawyers lived, and later became like New Jack City, Chicago. There's a lot that you don't know, but Chicago, I can tell you, has some good times and still has good times. But one of the reasons why I did this documentary is to show you that we had great times in Chi-Town, not Chirac. Enjoy.
Now you convinced? Shit, I wish you explained like that before, man.
Thank you. Very kind.
I'm the jungle stream, I'm the morning sun, smiling on everyone. I'm the shining sea, I'm the mountain high, so free. I'm the backbone of the I'm a tall tree, I'm a jungle stream, I'm the rolling sun. Smiling I'm the shining sea, I'm the mountain high.
Said I'll be so glad. I'll be glad when I get my groove back again. Oh Lord, have mercy.
Yes, I know.
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 I said I've been trying to get my groove back up again, dude.
I'm going fish, 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 fish.
So I go out and celebrate, and it's a part do, man, I just can't wait on your old blue river. Where your old blue river, where your old blue river, it's all right with me. Where your old blue river, where your old blue river, where your old blue river. Where your old blue river, where your blue ribbon is all right with me. Come on, Bobby.
Blues laid the groundwork for the soundtracks such as soul music, the genres of soul music and jazz and stepper and neo soul. All that music came from out of cotton fields of the Mississippi Delta. Yes, those blues artists laid the groundwork. You know, they took a blunt in their salary. They didn't get paid the residuals that they should have gotten paid. But they left us a legacy of music, blues music, coming from out of the cotton fields, the moans and the groans and the guitar picks and the electric guitars all came from the Delta blues artists. Now, true enough, they didn't get the notoriety and the residuals that they should have gotten, but Jimi Hendrix once said that he had my dad's music in his playlist, which was the Backyard Blues. It's called Smokey Smothers Sings the Backyard Blues, and Jimi Hendrix had that in his playlist of albums. And Muddy Waters said, you know, one day blues is going to leave the south side of Chicago. And it did. And it went to Europe and England and inspired young blues artists. And this is the music that you hear today. The electric guitar that you hear, the picks and Jimi Hendrix music and Buddy Guy's music, all from the Delta South. Blues music laid the groundwork. Hello, hi, this is Queen F. Smothers of Ari'ze Women Network. Thank you for joining me today. I have got a wonderful interview I'm going to be doing with a young man, and I discovered my guest while in a Facebook group called You Know You're from 47th Street If ... And it's really a fun group. A lot of members, they post different things about Chicago, and particularly 47th Street and the restaurants, the different buildings that we could recall, fond memories that we have, you know, in like looking back. We kind of said together, we said, you know, we didn't know how good we had it back then, but we really did. It was better than, you know, a lot of people can say how it is now. We had fun growing up, but we also had issues growing up in urban communities. So it's rare you find people who genuinely you can connect with. I learned of this young man that he actually was a family friend. Once me and him started talking, and he started asking me about my family members, and I thought that was genuine because, you know, it is rare to find people that really care about other people. You know, most of the time people talk about things, but this individual actually was concerned about my family members, and he's a good fit friend of the family. We recalled a lot of things growing up on the south side of Chicago. You know, like in Chicago, you can remember there was the Regal Theater. So, you know, Regal Theater had a lot of stars like Red Fox, Flip Wilson, the Jackson 5. They all came to the Regal Theater on the south side of Chicago. So we never really learned about the contributions that African Americans make until we, you know, got older. At least I didn't learn it in high school. You know, I learned it as I got older. I started Googling or going on Facebook and seeing different buildings, markers, contributions that Black people made. So this guest, his name is Michael J. Holman Sr. He's a realtor with Carmark Realty Group, and he's a real estate agent and financing assistant. He is one of the Chicago success stories on today's show, Making It Out the Hood. So I'm going to bring Michael over, and here we go. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm well. Yourself?
Thank you for joining me. Good. I'm good. Yes, I am so fortunate to have stumbled upon you. You know, it's just so ironic how you can be in a group and then you find out that a person has been so close to your family. I remember you asking me about my sister and my brother, and it's like, oh, he is a friend of the family. And then you was like, yeah, I've been to your apartment on 46 in Calumet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, wow. And just thinking of back then, those times really bring back some fun memories, you know. Also, they bring up some challenges that we had in growing in urban America, urban communities, particularly on the south side of Chicago. So I, you know, looking at your bio, one of the things that I noticed that you spoke about your mother. How was it growing up on the south side of Chicago and being raised by your mom?
It was a struggle. I mean, I think as you mentioned, we didn't know that we were struggling, but sometimes we didn't know how much we were going without because you know you had a lot of love in the family. So it was a struggle for my mom as a single mom, raising three kids, two boys, and I was the youngest of three, and my
Mhm.
sister. So we
Okay.
will see her struggle. I mean, to see your mom going out in below zero temperature to stand on the bus to go to work was hard, you know. But through it all, she always made a way. I mean, we didn't realize that we were struggling as much as she was struggling because she just
Mhm.
made ends meet. She did what she had to do.
And that happened also with my mom. I mean, we really, wow, you know, coming from a big family of 10, it was a lot of us, of course, but she always made do.
Yeah.
Um, you know, we moved a lot of times, but it was always to get to a better location or whatever. But because I remember we grew up in the projects and that wasn't really pleasant.
Yeah.
And both me and you went to DuSable High School. I know you were saying that, you know, you didn't grow up in the projects, but you had to deal with the people in the projects, and that was a little tough. So, kind of tell me about that. What was that
Yeah.
experience like?
My mom, she struggled to make sure that she would not move her kids to the project. I remember her saying that I refuse to move my kids to the project. But
Hmm.
going to school at DuSable, that's who you interacted with because most of the kids that went to DuSable were from the project. And to
Uh-huh.
be honest, it was a struggle for me every day to fight. I mean, I fought a lot just to get back and forth to school. It was like a
Really?
2 or 3 time a week occurrence. It was a fight because of the dynamics that were in the school system and
Hmm.
just being able to go there and try to survive.
Right. Yeah, because actually my first, I think, 2 weeks as a freshman, I actually had a fight with a guy. He busted my nose. It was not
Oh,
pleasant. It was not pleasant. It was blood like gushing everywhere. And it was over something like the the sign-in sheet. It was something that simple, you know, but yeah, the challenges, man.
when you
It
think
was
about it,
traumatic.
yeah, but when you think about it, it was because have you heard the saying hurt people?
Hmm. Hmm.
So when you have these children that's growing up in these deprived families, they're struggling, mom on drugs, you don't know what they're dealing with in their household, and they come to school and they're angry.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
hurt people. You know, they know that's just how it comes out.
Exactly. And I kind of, as you mentioned that, like about the moms and, uh, you don't know what the parents are going through. And I think about DMX. DMX just passed. And I remember he used to talk about the fact that his mom had left him. But a lot of times there's a story behind a story.
Exactly.
What was the reason? What happened to her? What was she going through? A lot of
Exactly.
times our parents go through things and we don't know what they went through because a lot of times the black parents didn't really there wasn't like a lot of conversation with the kid. It was like sometimes children should be seen and not heard, or it was more respectable to be quiet. But if we had learned of what our parents had went through, maybe we would be more understanding. So
Exactly.
it's really sad. Yeah, a lot of parents grew up actually was on drugs. A lot of
Exactly.
parents were alcoholics.
And with
I
that
mean,
being said, I told you I was raised by a single parent. My mom was the one that raised us, but my dad
mhm.
was around. But he was an alcoholic. All of my
Oh,
all of my
wow.
young childhood, my dad was an alcoholic. They were not living together. They were never married. So I would see my
Uh-huh.
dad on the weekends, but my dad was an alcoholic. He just wasn't in a position to give me what I needed to raise me into a man.
Exactly. Wow, we had the same experiences. My father was a blues artist, but he also had a battle with the booze. We always
Okay.
say that. He was a gentle giant, very wonderful man, but the alcohol just brought out something different, and it really hurt his career as a musician. So yeah, and that goes back to the fact that we were talking about the movie Claudine. How,
Yeah.
if you notice, the father was not present in the home because
Uh-huh.
back then when you were on welfare you couldn't have a man living with you.
Exactly.
You couldn't, if he wasn't supporting the family he had to go.
Yeah.
So that strong figure out of the black family, and it really hurt.
And that was
And
set up by design. That was by design by society to make sure, because I really truly believe that in spite of what anybody says, we have always been targeted in the black community to make sure that we were always a step behind, that we were
mm,
always set up to fail in a sense. I mean, we had the worst school systems. They redlined us where we couldn't buy in certain neighborhoods even if we had the money to. And with the situation with women being on welfare, you couldn't have a father in the house. So now you're raising a bunch of black boys that don't have a father figure to teach them how to be a man. When I talk
there you
about I
go.
didn't make it
There
out unscathed, I still have scars, seen and unseen. I'm always in fight mode. Is basically
really.
when you encounter a threat, you either choose to fight or flight. I've always been taught to fight. I've been struggling all my life. I've been in survival mode all my life. So that's a form
Wow.
of traumatic stress that you've been
Yeah.
dealing with all your life.
And I was going to ask you about that when you said scars seen and unseen. I didn't, I was once like, well, what does he mean by that? And
Yeah.
so you're in the flight mode always.
Fight in the fight mode.
Like,
Fight all the
wow.
time.
That's part of PSTD,
Yes, exactly.
post traumatic stress. And I have that too. I actually, as much as I love Chicago, there's some traumatic things that happened to me in Chicago, that happened to my family. And sometimes I actually have nightmares. And I
Exactly.
wake up just like a person that was in the military. I wake up in a cold sweat, like, and I'll be like, okay, I'm here, I'm not there. So as much as, and maybe one day I'll go back and visit, but it's like, it's a lot of traumatic things that happen in the urban communities that is very traumatic.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
I'm happy to know that you've overcome some of those obstacles, but
Exactly.
uh, what
Returning to their
challenges
war zone. I'm not paranoid, but I'm very aware of my surroundings.
you're aware?
When I go back to the city now, I switch to a different awareness because I know what kind of environment I'm in right now. So I'm glad I made it out. I would never live in the city again. That's
What
just my
about
personal
the?
opinion. I don't want to be in that environment unless I can live like in a downtown area. But living where I grew up at, I would never return to that area because I know what's there now. There's still a lot of drugs there. There's still a lot of gang banging there. There's still a lot of negative things there that I don't want to deal with.
Okay, but what about the gentrification?
Yeah,
Didn't the gentrification happen like over there on 43rd and Langley and things that in that area of the Bronzeville? I heard that's really nice.
now, what's going on around there? My dad, and I went to University of Chicago Hospital for a while, and my dad retired from University of Chicago Hospital. So in that area, University of Chicago has bought up a lot of their property. So I remember my grandmother used to have a clinic on 63rd Street, and I remember when Martin Luther King got killed, I had to be about 7 years old, and I remember all the burning and the gang looting up and down 63rd Street. And you would never see white people on 63rd Street back then in the 60s and 70s. And now you go there, like you say, it's been gentrified. You got Chinese, Asians, you got white people. It's just like a whole different environment now.
Well, when they built the United Center, that was the whole point, was to get us out of the nice, close location near the
Exactly.
United Center, where the basketball, Michael Jordan, all of that, and Oprah at Harpo Studios.
Yes.
All of a sudden, they got us out of there to get the people and closer to the jobs
Exactly.
downtown, for the
Because
right people,
as you
you know.
mentioned, what happened is when they did what we call white flight. When they moved out of the city into the suburbs, sooner or
Hmm.
later it dawned on them, they said we just gave them, meaning us, the prime real estate which was close to downtown.
Exactly.
And then when
Yeah.
they thought about it, like, okay, we need to switch this around. We need to get back to the city and move them out to the suburbs.
Hmm. So, like you were saying earlier, when they would be, they used to say, "Yeah, you should pull yourself up by the bootstraps." I mean, by the shoestrings. I mean, you don't have any shoestrings
They've
like
taken it. We don't have bootstraps because you've taken it.
Martin
They
Luther
take
King
away all
said
the
that.
resources out of our neighborhood. They put us in the worst school system. They give us everything. They don't give us anything to survive. And then they say, go ahead and survive. After you take away
Exactly.
everything, who you need to survive?
And we can name each decade where something traumatic happened. The 60s, okay, there was an uproar, and then there was the civil rights movement. Then the 70s, then the drugs were put in. Then the 80s, no jobs. I remember all the jobs got outsourced. I
Mm-hmm.
remember I used to have temp jobs, and I can go from one temp job to another. It was always one available.
Yeah,
I worked temping for like 2 or 3 years. One job ended 6 months. I'm at another job. But now, what's there for the kids now, for the young people?
exactly.
I mean, it's not. Is there? The jobs have been outsourced.
Yeah.
So
And
the
like you said, with the temp
challenges.
jobs, I bounced around to a lot of temp jobs as well. When you have those temp jobs, you don't have medical benefits.
Hmm.
So
Right.
now
No medical benefit.
there was another way of them getting around the system to
Hmm.
do what they wanted to do.
Right. The wealthy keeping holding on to their money, not paying
Exactly.
the taxes. Shipping the money out to the what they call those overseas accounts.
Exactly.
You know.
Like I said,
So.
power and wealth. Power and wealth, they're
Mhm.
never going to give those to us. Not without a fight.
Exactly, exactly. There's always a losing battle. It seems like we're on the losing end, but you know what? I have faith that things are gonna get better, and we gotta just teach the young people. You're gonna have to fight. You gotta fight your way. Try to go to college. Get your education. The challenges. Um, Now let's talk about how did you come about going into real estate? How did that happen?
Because I happened to be blessed enough to buy my first house. I bought my
Wow.
house. I bought my house a couple of years ago in 2017, and actually it was a friend of mine who was my real estate agent. And
Okay.
I mean, through what we went through for me to purchase my house, I was like, this is definitely something I can do. For a long time, I always had a full-time job, and I always worked part-time jobs. So I'm like,
Okay.
if I was to get my real estate license, I can have this second job, or either make this a full career if it takes
Hmm.
off right. So I
Okay.
made up my mind what I wanted to do, and it took a lot of studying because the test is very hard. And I would come home every day from work, and I would sit down and I would study for hours. And I was able to go and pass the test the first time. And they say a lot of people don't. It's very rare that you pass that test the first time.
You just a smart cookie, as they used to say. I mean,
I'm
you take
sorry.
the cut class and still pass.
Yeah, I mean, it was a journey, and now I'm still building my business. But I know if I put in the work, then it's definitely going to pop.
Wonderful. And that's a blessing, that you made it, you faced your challenges and you overcame obstacles and you still made something out of yourself. And one reason why I wanted to feature you, because I know people are wondering, okay, I Rise Women Network. I want to bring in the men now. Now I want to also focus on the men and just let people know that you are able to, okay, I think I'm being lost. I don't know. Okay, I'm back again. You're able to overcome obstacles. Sure, we face a lot of challenges. I face a lot of challenges being a young Black girl growing on the south side of Chicago. You face a lot of challenges. You got to fight through it and still, contribute what you can to society. And right
Exactly.
now, it seems like society is focused on negativity, the people that are, that are past. I'm sorry to hear that, but let's focus on the people that are here. Let's focus on
Exactly.
the black men and the black women that are here that are making positive moves in life. You know, and I want to kind of go back to your brother because I know that you lost your brother, and just kind of focus on that to bring him a little memory of him. What do you remember about your brother and what happened?
My brother was the oldest, so when my mom broke, my brother took care of me and my sister. He was the one that was always there, keeping us out of trouble, and just trying to keep the family dynamic together. It was in December of 1983, and
Okay.
we had this little spot, this little place we used to hang out in, and we called it the Bucket of Blood. It was right on 49th and Hagen. It was a little lounge area. And the reason we
Oh,
called it the Bucket of Blood is because so many people got killed in it.
oh my God.
So this night I pulled up and all the police were out there. My girlfriend was standing out there and she said, "That's your brother." I got out of the car, ran to the door, he had gotten shot. And he had made it from the counter to the door, and he had passed out by the door. I was able to push my way through the crowd, get to him, and he was still alive. And what
Wow.
happened is, because it was a small caliber bullet, he basically drowned in his own blood. He bled internally, and he didn't make it.
Oh God.
It was
How
very
old was he?
traumatizing. But that's another thing I think about now. Even with that, we didn't even allow ourselves to grieve. I was still in survival mode. After that, it's still like, what you gonna do? You gonna sit here and have a pity party? You still gotta survive. So you don't even
That's right.
allow being in the environment that I grew up in. You don't even allow yourself to grieve.
And see, that's kind of not good because
It's not.
at some point it's got to come up.
Exactly.
Whatever is going on the inside is going to come up. And sometimes people turn it in on themselves, and that's why people turn to booze and the drugs and things
Exactly.
like that. So, I'm glad that you didn't turn it at, but I hope that, one stigma that's in the black community is that black men don't seek therapy. So I hope that whatever you need to do it, because don't be ashamed of it. It's something you
That's
have to talk about.
exactly. And again, that's the thing that in the black community we don't seek therapy. That's the white people out there. But you have to at some point you have to address the demons because
Hmm.
we go through a lot of trauma, a lot of different things that we deal with. And if you don't deal with it, at some point, face it head on, it's going to continue to eat at you. I just remember saying to myself, I mean, my way of surviving was giving up is not an option. I mean, that was my option to
Hmm.
continue to do better because I kept telling myself I can't give up, I can't stop. If I do, I'm going to be another casualty.
There you go. There you go. That's so true. That's where it comes in that survival mode. you
Yeah,
know
exactly.
you gotta we had to survive. All of us, we've been through a lot, growing
Yeah,
up in urban communities. That's why the kids nowadays, we're not taking no excuses from y'all. Okay, if we can survive and we can overcome, you can too. you
exactly.
know the drugs, whatever it is, a single parenting, coming from a single parent home, whatever, losing a loved one. I've lost loved ones. um Unfortunately, none of my loved ones that I lost, I didn't lose them to the streets. It's like they either died from, like cancer or something like that. But a loss is a loss,
Exactly.
and both of us, we both lost our mother. I saw that you was, celebrating your mother's birthday. Happily
Yes,
birthday,
yes,
and bless her, and my mom passed also, so Mother's Day is coming up. So, we have that, it's a loss that
yeah.
you never get used to. So,
Because
anyone that's out there, please appreciate your mom while
yeah,
she's here.
exactly. Because growing up, you never even think about that. One day my mom is not going to be here. You don't want to think that way.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. because she's that support system, you know.
Exactly.
Like my mom, she was our support system. She could actually tell us all of our friends that were no good. My mom was
My,
kind of psychic, you know. It's like
yeah,
she was like,
my
"No,
mom was
that
like
person is
that.
yeah, that person is that." And it's our own mom. Then
They
here
could see
later,
it.
we have to go back and say you was right, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So yeah, I miss that.
exactly,
But yeah, man. But that's so sad about your brother, you know. And rest his soul, rest his spirit.
exactly.
Man, and that was traumatic for you know, to be right there. And like you said, it's something that you carry with you, but you went on with your life. So,
Exactly.
man, I
And
admire you
actually,
for
like I
that.
said, he was like the father figure that I didn't have in my father, because my father was around, but my father was an alcoholic. So my brother was kind of like the man of the house because my mom always had to work. So now, me being the youngest of three, now I don't
Uh-huh.
even have that support system. So now I'm just out here in the streets trying to make my way because mom can't protect me when I'm out in the streets. No, you got to learn how to
Mhm.
navigate. You got to learn how to fight. You got to learn who's good for you, who's not good for you. And
Mhm.
again, you're in that survival mode all your life.
Yes,
In that
all the
survival
time,
mode.
all the time, and that's one way that we've made it out the hood is that with that survival,
Yeah,
that fight or flight.
exactly.
Sometime it turns in against us, because sometime I'm in that fight or flight mood and I don't need to be in there. Like sometime I'll go out and I'll think, because a lot of times the news media and the repeated news will make you think everybody's out to get you,
Yeah,
and that's a problem. But
it
when
is.
I go out, sometimes I don't see that. People
Hmm.
will speak. How you doing?
Exactly.
And I'd be like, then I have to snap out of it. How you doing? So it's like everybody's not out to get us.
And again, that goes back to the traumatic stress that we deal with growing up in the hood. You
Mhm.
just see the world differently. You see the
Yes,
world differently.
we see the world differently,
Yeah,
and it's probably a protective mechanism
it
too.
is. Yeah,
It really protects us. And
yeah.
man, now I wanted to touch bases. Well, first of all, you mentioned that you don't have that.
Slow down, slow down, slow down, wait your turn. Think too hard to rock it, perfect. Suddenly they'll burn you out. Work your body and turn you out. Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, wait your turn. Think too hard to rock it, perfect. Suddenly they'll turn you out. Work your body and burn you out. Yeah. See you think over there.
What's up? This is TP Corleone of TP Sizzle's Hot Mix Show on Chicago Sizzle Radio, and also of TP Corleone's Funk Zone YouTube channel, where I interview some of the most interesting personalities of entertainment. Check it out, dig it and love it. Now, briefly, I want to talk to you about Chicago, Chi-Town, not Chirac. You dig that? Well, it's funny because when I was a kid growing up, many of my favorite artists that I did love were from Chicago. I didn't really realize it until I got older, like your Linda Cliffords, your Curtis Mayfields, Captain Skies, Earth, Wind, and Fire, so on and so on. But then as I got older, I started experiencing the Chicago music scene myself on my first hand basis, seeing the house music scene born. You did when I was a teenager. You did. It was hot. It was nice. I was a dancer. Became a recording artist later on, and I seen many of the DJs that I love listening to, like your Frank and Knuckles, your Hot Mix 5 DJs, which really exposed me to the scene. They became recording artists and just worldwide personalities, and just planted a seed for worldwide phenomenon, a scene where the dancers and DJs who locked into a certain groove that they all loved and shared and just about worship turned it into something big and then hit mainstream. The same as another Chicago scene, music scene that started in the streets as well, the stepping scene, you know what I'm saying, which was around even before I was around. You dig? My older, like god brothers and uncles and things like that would tell me about when it was called bopping before it was called stepping. But again, born from the streets, from those who love to dance to a certain groove, the DJs who like to play the music and things, they created a whole industry within itself. And some of those DJs have also became major. And of course, this is way before R. Kelly popularized the genre worldwide with Step It in the Name of Love, that album, you dig. But yeah, so Chi-Town has always been a major player, even the hip hop Chi-Town scene, you know, from way back to when Twister was called Mr. Tongue Twister, when the first hip hop radio station was on AM radio, all the way up to now. And don't forget and don't sleep on the fact that the most wealthiest Black billionaire in America is a Chicago hip hop artist, Kanye West. So let that be proof enough, if nothing else, that Chicago was heavy in this game, you dig, on the music scene, the music industry on a worldwide stage, is now and continue to be that until the wheels falls off this bad boy, you dig. I'm proud and happy to be a part of it myself. Peace and love, and keep funkin', baby. Can you dig it though?
party people. There's some people up there holding everything. Telling lies, giving out advice about the people's money and things. And if they're gonna throw it away, might as well get some to me. Yeah, they've seen and heard of, but never had misery. Girls.
I've been working all week long, working like a Hebrew slave. I can't wait to get to work. Thank God it's Friday. I grab a coat and catch the bus. I got to be on time. And when I walk through the door, they got to give me mine.
Hello, I am the eldest daughter of Big Otis Smokey Smothers. My name is Emma Louise. I was named after my grandmother, Big Smokey's mother, Miss Emma, and my aunt, Louise, his sister. I just wanted to take just a few minutes, just a couple of minutes, and let you know how much I enjoyed as a toddler. I do remember my dad having jam sessions in Chicago on the south side, the lower east south side. Mr. Howling Wolf would come over, various other wonderful musicians, and they would have jam sessions. My uncle Little Smokey would also come in and jam as well. I remember Mr. Wolf being a big, tall man, big hands, big feet, and a gruffy voice. I used to be afraid of him, but he was really a really nice man. I appreciate you all for tuning into this docudrama, and I also want to thank my sister Queen F. Smothers for her tireless work. And for everyone and their support, thank you all, and God bless. I also want to mention my mother, Miss Earlene Smothers, who wrote songs to the music for my dad. I miss them both so very dearly. And I hope everyone never forgets the impact of blues that my dad made. Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is DJ Rare Beauty. As most of you might know me from Spreaker.com. My name is Emma Smothers. I am the daughter of Otis Big Smokey Smothers. He's a Chicago blues musician. May he rest in peace.
A legend. Chicago blues legend. Let's put that in there. Don't forget. Give him his props.
He's a Chicago blues legend. That's my daddy. From the south side of Chicago, from the Delta, Mississippi. He played alongside with Howlin' Wolf, the Muddy Waters Band. He started out with Bo Diddley in the 50s.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yes. He also played with Ike Turner.
Wow.
He was noted as one of Jimi Hendrix's favorite blues musicians.
Wow.
Yes, and there's a lot to say about my dad.
All right. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but he left Mississippi one day walking and hitchhiked to Chicago.
Oh, wow. Really? And that's a story in itself right there. That should be that's enough for a movie.
Yes, he was picking cotton and he just got tired.
Wow.
Got sick and tired. My mother, I am the fifth daughter, the oldest daughter, the fifth daughter out of 10 kids, the oldest daughter of Big Smokey Smothers.
Wow.
My mother left Mississippi almost at the same time my dad did. They didn't meet until they got to Chicago when they relocated, but my mother was the only child.
Big Smokey Smothers. Well, I knew Big Smokey Smothers as a child. He used to always come around my house. In fact, he's my nephew and Racine Wilson's father. And he would come around, and we called him the ice cream man because he had his ice cream wagon, and we would get free ice cream from him. And he was always a real nice and happy person, you know. And he taught me my first guitar chord. First little song, what was that song? You Don't Love Me, I think it was, yeah. He taught me that one Saturday. I think I had to be about 14 maybe. And his music still, it's entrenched in my heart because we always had Smokey Smothers music. He would always drop us music off at the house. And before I got in the blues business, he got called home to Blues Heaven. And I know he'd be real proud of me right now because he knew how much I always loved the blues, even as a young child. So if you knew Smokey, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He was one hell of a guy. Nicest guy you could ever meet. His music still lives on because I am a member of the Cash Box Kings and we recorded one of his songs. And hopefully we'll record some more in the near future. But Smokey, rest up in Blues Heaven. See you when I get there, bro. Later.
Bring yes or no? I mean, what do you feel about that?
Oh yes, most
Yeah,
definitely. We do,
yeah,
because music is power, it's magic. You got to use that magic right.
yeah. I
Can't
feel
use
that.
it to,
Mm.
can't
Yeah.
use it to
I
destroy.
like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's magic, you know. And the better the music, the better the art, the stronger the magic, you know. The
That's
stronger
right.
the spell. You know what I mean? That's what I feel.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
I
right.
like that. And as a matter of fact, I'm so proud of her because she's protecting her music. Smokey owns her
Hmm.
music, which is
That's right.
it's unrare.
That's
You
right.
know, nowadays artists they feel like they have to come up under a big company. With Smokey is with Destin Records, which her brother
Hmm.
Mario Hillman
Yep.
is the producer, you know, her manager. So
Hmm.
Destin Records is a family record company,
That's right.
and
Good.
then there's Smokey. She's, you know, coming from, you know, her granddad loins. She, you know,
Hmm.
the music legacy is right there, and she's protecting it,
That's
which is
right.
just
So
Keeping it
wonderful.
basically,
home.
you guys, including you too, Quinell, you guys are doing what you're supposed to do. That your that your family planted those seeds, and y'all are the flowers that's blossoming from those seeds. That's what's up right there, though. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's
how
what
you
it's
do
all
that.
about.
That's how you do that.
Yes, exactly.
Both of
I
y'all.
mean, wow. We're going to. Ooh, we've got a lot of comments. Let me get to these comments. We're gonna go into a listening session, but first we're gonna see who is. We've got Mocha Sister in the house. She says good evening, and we've got guess who? Rare
Hey,
Beauty
mama.
Emma. Rare Beauty Emma is Tangie's
It's
mom.
my mama.
Smokey's
Yeah.
mom. She says good evening, family from Rasa, Nike, and me.
Hey, family. I
Oh
love
wow.
y'all.
And we got Gary, let's see, Gary Tyson.
Yeah, what's up, Gary?
Also one
Hey,
of your
Rare
friends.
Beauty Emma. Hey, what's up? What's up?
Hey,
All right,
y'all.
I see y'all. I see
Yeah.
y'all.
Say, hey,
Showing up and
TP.
showing out.
Showing up. Yeah.
Been me my whole life, I could never change. You can look in my eyes, see I've been through things that would have made you fold up. Can't a damn thing hold us. Build it from the ground just to go up. I ain't gonna mess around, I'ma go nuts. Sometimes plans never really pan out. Bro told me keep going, never stand down. Plant the seed, let it breathe, watch it stand out. Had to get it straight up off the ground, fuck a handout. Gotta water my garden to reap fruit. Never bother if I lose it, I'ma recoup. Native black and Cajun, I'ma honor these roots. RBG till I'm deceased, I gotta honor my youth. You can't throw me off of my mission. I'm a real nigga in a bad bitch skin. You cannot advance to the class that I'm in. Soul of a king, heart and mind of a queen pin. I've been doing my thing since a jit. Every time I spit, it's guaranteed to be a hit. That's the main thing that I hate to admit. Acting like it's all love, but I know it's counterfeit. Been me my whole life, I could never change. You can look in my eyes, see I've been through things that would have made you fold up. Can't a damn thing hold us. Build it from the ground just to go up. I ain't gonna mess around, I'ma go nuts. Been me my whole life, I could never change. You can look in my eyes, see I've been through things that would have made you fold up. Can't a damn thing hold us. Build it from the ground just to go up. I ain't gonna mess around, I'ma go nuts. It's all love when I step up on the mic. Heart's made of stone, but I like to see the light. I'm a good witch, baby, I don't bite. All I do is write, chilling with the gin. I'll be in the future, leaving in the past if it's trash.
Say it's never too late. If I can go back and get my degree and I'm in my 50s, you can get it. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do Chicago success stories, because in the news you always see the media, the negativity about Chicago and how many people died and things like that, and we're sorry, we pray for them, but there are successful people in Chicago who need to be profiled, who are doing good. And let others know that you can make it out of the hood.
You can make it out of the hood.
The hood has good points, the hood has bad points, but you can make it to wherever plateau
I came a long
you need to
way,
go.
just to put it in context for people. When I was a teaching artist, I made $50 an hour, right? But unfortunately, my checks were coming every 8 weeks, 5 to 8 weeks. It was almost like being paid once a month. And I had
Right.
to live off of that. And it wasn't taxed, which meant when I came to New York, I had to pay that money back. It was a whole mess.
Mm. Yeah.
But after I got my master's degree, this wonderful ideal I got of myself was, I got tired of working in the shelter. I love working in the shelter, but at the same time, the trauma I was being exposed to and soaking in from so many sources and people, that can make you, like, I hate to use the word crazy. It can make you crazy for real. So
Mm.
I decided to apply for something in disability management, and I didn't think nobody was going to hire me because I was like, well, you don't have too much experience, but yes, you do. You've been doing individuals with disabilities for how long? For a long time. I ended up with working in a private industry that pays competitively.
Competitively, huh?
That means I'm in between. Well, my old job really was less than 15 grand than what I make now.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about. And success is different. There are different variations of
I
success.
can live off of this on the East, but if I was in any other city, I would be in a house right now.
I know. I heard about how much rent you pay, which I'm gonna hook you up with Michael J. Hallman, my last guest,
I said, don't let me get back to the
who
Midwest.
has houses
One
for
year,
sale.
look, 1 year in an apartment, and the next year somebody get me in a townhouse or something, something for real.
Right.
But
Well,
I would never thought that I would get paid competitively. And I used to joke with my coworkers, and that's why I tell people, speak your truth out loud, because I basically said, look, I want to make $10,000 more. That's all I wanted. And when it came back with the offer, I told them, look, I'll take X amount of dollars. It was like 5 grand more than what I made. That's how bad I wanted to leave. If anybody from my old job, I love you guys, but it's no shade, but you should not be in the East making under 60,000. You can't live off of that in the East. You are living under your means. You're paying so much money for rent. You gotta have a roommate, or you gotta live in a basement apartment. That's the reality of it.
That's why it's so amazing that they're fighting in Congress over paying people $15 an hour. $17 an hour was the minimum wage, 20 years ago almost. And it's still like $7, $8 an hour, the minimum wage. It should
Minimum
be
wage
$15.
in New Jersey is like $8 or $9 an hour. How in the heck are you supposed to live off of that when your rent is $1,500 and $1,600?
That's why the people wind up having to get food. They happen to have to go on food stamps, which is called whatever they call it now, food stamps, because they can't afford food and their rent on $8 an hour. It has to be.
Ain't no shade in my game. I had to get in the line for the food stamps when I first moved to New York, because my first year in New York, I made $13,000 a year, which is next to nothing. That is the poverty line, people. And I wasn't going to get in the line because pride.
Of course.
And one of my friends was like, white girl. She was like, well, I just applied for mine, and I was just like,
girl,
and then she told me she was going to Whole Foods. Girl, she had the card. She said, I'm going to Whole Foods.
And that's how you're able to buy the Whole Foods and expensive food that is healthy
I'm doing it so wrong.
But you know what? We're going to close out. I have enjoyed this, and I want to know what words of encouragement you would like to leave our viewers with, and we're going to end it on that note.
Mocha's last words: believe in yourself and know your truth. If you have a plan and you want to execute it, you can go and execute it. Don't tell everybody what you're going to do, because some people are not ready for what you're about to do, because you're about to blow their mind. Keep it to your inner circle, but create a plan that you can execute. And if you mess up on a few steps, it's okay. It's not going to be perfect, but you'll get there. But you're not going to get there by just dreaming about it. Right. You got to do it and be about it, y'all. That's how you make it out of the hood. If I kept on saying I was going to be a writer, or I was going to go to New York, and kept talking about it, you have to make things a reality. And it's kind of like when you look at making SMART goals. Just look up SMART.
There are many people who have been successful in Chicago. You know, don't believe the gloom and doom that you hear all the time. It's not always that way. There are many people that migrated from the Delta South to Chicago and became successful. And their children grew up and they expanded to different cities, but their roots are in Chicago. You know, and so there are successful people. And how do you measure success? Success is achieving a goal. Success is being an influence in others' lives, mentoring, inspiring, encouraging. There are many success stories. You know, there were some not so good moments in Chicago. There were some really bad things that happened. That happened to me personally, and I guess they call it what you have PTSD. Sometime I'll wake up in the middle of the night from a bad nightmare, reflecting on things that happened to me. Being abducted by a complete stranger. You know, God got me out of that situation, and my ancestors. My mother's prayers were heard, and my abductor returned me back home. And I will never forget those moments. It still stays with me today. Thinking of what happened to me, it was nothing but a blessing and God that I am here alive. You know, there are some really bad things that happen in Chicago. But you must get over and overcome those things and don't let them tear you down, because then the one who tortured you or demonized you or assaulted you, they win. Don't let them win. Overcome. If you have to seek therapy, do that. Sure, there are bad things that happen to us, but we are overcomers and we are achievers, and some of us are overachievers. There is light at the end of the tunnel. There is success. There is Chicago success stories that you have never heard of. There are Chicago success stories that you will hear of and be inspired. Be inspired. Be enlightened. Arise. Maya Angelou says you can write me down in your history books with bitter, twisted lies, but still, like dust, I rise. I rise. I rise. Arise.